Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of the Coincu Podcast. I'm Kaz. I will be the host for today's show. In today's podcast, we will discuss about why Singapore is one of the most promising market when it comes to crypto adoption. And today's guest, we invite Markus Levin, the co-founder of XYO Network. So, hi Markus, welcome to
Hi,
the
thanks for
show.
having me.
Hi,
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm really busy after the event. And how about your side?
Same. It's always the same with these events. You double the work, and then it comes even more with all these amazing partnerships and all the follow-ups, of course.
Yes, I also have like a lot of calls, especially in this week today. Is like tight schedule, and yes, I also feel the same. So maybe before we start, can you introduce a little bit about yourself and about XYO Network?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, XYO is a trust oracle which connects real-world data with digital realities like contracts or the metaverse or games in the GameFi and others. And we do that in a trustless manner. So we take IoT devices and other ways to copy data, and we validate and verify it. We can tell you where the data is from, and then you can use that data, for example, to resolve a smart contract. And we believe we are the largest one in the space with more than 5 million contributors in the XYO network, and we are one of the very few trustless oracle. Trustless means that it's decentralized, and you don't need to trust the data in like a centralized source like a website, but it comes from a lot of sources with overlaps and so on.
Okay, that sounds really great. So what about yourself, Markus? So can you tell our audience a little bit about your background and how, why you come to blockchain?
Yeah. I'm from Germany originally, and I traveled around the globe working with lots of different amazing companies in first as a business consultant, but then in tech. And I worked in like ad tech and then publishing and then data companies and email technologies and many other things. And was very, very lucky to find successes there, and all of that culminated into like understanding of data, and the data is basically the currency of tomorrow. And so we wanted to build a data company, and then we had an IoT company, and that IoT company realized that location gets easily spoofed or hacked, and so we try to solve that location hacking problem with the XYO network, and that's basically where I come in. So the company exists for me, and then I joined in 2018 as a co-founder of XYO, and we built this XYO location network on top of the IoT infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really cool. And how do you find blockchain so far?
Oh, it's so exciting. I was involved first time in blockchain in 2013, and then it wasn't lucrative enough. We did something else then with distributed computing, and I joined again in 2018, like full time, but I was involved here in like 2017 as well, and it's has been an amazing ride so far. It's a lot of ups and downs, as in a lot of tech, which is new, but it's very amazing. How is it for you?
Yeah. I also feel that blockchain is really interesting industry because it's kind of similar to like roller coaster. When you go to a roller coaster, you feel like exciting, and then it's a little bit sometimes like down, and then you feel scary. But then after that, when you finish the roller coaster ride, and you feel like, oh, I want to discover more, and you want to ride the roller coaster one more. So yeah, I think I also like do the same to the blockchain industry. So
Yeah, if I may add, when we launched XYO in like 2018, just when we started launching it, like ETH was at $1,000, right? And then started our token sale, and ETH was at $500 or so, and then at the end of the token sale it was at 300, and then it was later in the year it was at like 66, I think, and it was such a decline.
yeah.
And I think a lot of the projects which launched then, they were forced to build business models. In like 2017 there was this ICO craze and everybody was crazy, and these projects, they lived on the token reserves, but projects which launched in 2018, they needed to build something real. And so today I think we are lucky because there's another downturn, but we have a real business which generates revenue, had a quite profitable 2021 and a lot in the first half of 2022 as well. And I think we would not be there, if we had a fat token reserve and wouldn't need to worry about it.
Yeah. So about the XYO, so we also received like a news from you guys. So early this year, XYO announced like a 20 million deal with Singapore-based crypto investor, Aligner Fund. So it's a venture capital fund with roots in Harvard and MIT. So XYO's expansion into Singapore reflects crypto's greater appeal in the region compared to Europe and North America, which are slower to adopt blockchain technology. So maybe like we will talk a little bit more why you guys like focusing in Singapore.
Yeah, it's so dynamic. It's every time I come to Singapore, it's like it's such a melting pot of cultures. Years, it's like you go down certain streets, and then it's like food and Indian food and Vietnamese food and Indonesian food, right? And it's everything is right there, right? If I flew from San Francisco to Singapore this last time, and it goes 99.9% over water, right? And then once you go to Singapore, it's like all these countries come together, right? And then you have like Chinese influences and everything comes together, and it's so amazing. It's basically like bullseye for Asia, I think. And as you have more crypto regulation there, and more companies move their stuff there. If you look at like Binance and Huawei and many others, right? And I think it will become even more of a hub for crypto. But I think from there in Singapore, it's like this shining bend. I think it allows other countries to look at Singapore and take some of their regulations, for example, and some of their ideas and adopt it in your own countries, right? If you look at Vietnam, Thailand, what happens in a lot of countries in Asia is I think that they try to attract now their own crypto businesses, and so it's that market is very, very exciting in terms of like chips, community, Web3 adoption, and so many more things. And then of course investors and the money is also very interesting and very dynamic. It's less conservative than I think in Europe, and certainly less conservative than in the United States.
Yeah, I know, right? So I mean, Singapore is pretty small country, but then like when I come there, my first impression also the same like you. Like I can see like a lot of culture there. So Indian culture, Chinese, and everything, like Malay as well. And yeah, I mean at the first time when I come to Singapore, I also like fall in love with Singapore. And yeah, and after that, like for my job, I'm also like in blockchain and crypto industry. So I always like fly in and out of Singapore like most of the time for my business trip. And yes, I love my job so much. Okay.
Good.
So can you tell me more a little bit about like XY Lab, the company behind XYO protocol?
Yeah, XYO Labs started as a location company, as I mentioned before, and today we have several business lines which center around XYO Network in a way. So there is the IoT location stuff, which we still do. We still have like beacons and stuff, and then that's a smaller business these days. And then we have the XYO Network, so the data business there. And then as part of the XYO Network, to make it easy for people to contribute, we launched a business called Coin. And Coin is an augmented reality app which lets you rewards as you explore the world. Like you can go to coincup.co and just download the app and be part of it. And the Coin app is a sentinel or data collector inside the XYO network as well. So it's an easy way for you to just earn some crypto, and there's like many ways to earn and to contribute to the community. And those are basically the three pillars of XYO Labs. About 52 team members right now, and they are distributed around the globe. So we are like fully remote and love our team members everywhere.
Okay, that's cool. So I remember that you have mentioned that XY was established in 2012, right? And in 2018, XY is a blockchain-based Oracle network was born. That is the great path of development. So what is your next plan for the upcoming years?
Yeah, so we just launched XYO 2.0, which makes it easier for Web2 and Web3 companies to connect to the XYO network and to connect data points. It's faster, it's more reliable in some ways, and we hope that we will find more and more projects to connect to more data points, but more different layer ones and more metaverses and more gamified projects, which will use data generated by our users. Can collect them offline, like let's say retail data as well as online, and then so we hope to grow that contributor base as well. As I mentioned, we have like more than 5 million of them. They are also around the globe, like from the United States to all the Philippines to China and anywhere else, and we love to just grow that network and so be like a spider web in the middle, which connects the data points, with intermediaries and end users of the data.
Okay, so about XYO Network, so maybe can you tell us more detail about like 4 components of the XYO Network? What are the differences between this model and others in the market right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are 4 components, as you mentioned. So there's a sentinel devices which collect the data, which could be like an IoT device, like a temperature sensor, let's say, or a mobile app, or other device. And then there's the bridges, which are devices which relay the data. And there's the archivists, which are devices which store data. And then there's the diviners, the devices which crunch the data to give the best answer to a given question, like did my e-commerce package make it to the door? And if it did, right, pay 1 ETH to the sender, for example. All these devices are incentivized with XYO to provide data which is useful to someone else. And we tried to grow all of these. So the Coin app, in the beginning I said it's a sentinel or a data collector, right? But in a way it's a bridge as well, because mobile phone, you can relay data. So it's a good way to contribute to the network and earn some more.
Okay, I find it's very interesting. So I have read some document about XYO Network, and I find it's interesting here because you guys choose the proof of origin, right? And why do you guys choose the proof of origins as your consensus mechanism?
Yeah, there's 2 proof of origins we have. So proof of origin, which is most important for us, is to prove that the data point is correct. And to be able to do that, you need to say where data came from. Let's say it came from a certain sensor, right? And from whom it was witnessed, the data. So other devices saw that too. And then we have something we call a bound witness. So it's basically a cryptographic handshake where two devices validate and verify each other's data or each other's proximity and so on. And then that data get handed off to the next device. You have another cryptographic handshake and then another one and then another one. So, we call it transient key chaining, basically, where you have a chain between those handoffs data points until the data ends up, let's say, on chain or in a smart contract, and that's the way you can prove the origin of the data.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, what about the reward system for miners? Can you talk more about that? So, how can XYO miners be able to provide accurate data and know when to provide no data at all? So maybe can you tell us all a little bit about this?
Yeah. There's several ways to mine. The easiest one, if you're not crypto native, even if you're crypto native, is a Coincu, and on coincup.co, and then can also create an archivist, for example, bridge, or you can have other devices which collect data and contribute to the network if you create data useful to someone else, like an IoT device, for example. So we have all our software is open source, so you can download XYO software, for example, upgrade the firmware of your IoT devices, and then they become part of the XYO network.
Oh, okay. So what is your data validation mechanism to build a bridge between the real data and all that user need?
What's the validation mechanism? Can you do it again, please?
Is a data validation mechanism to build a bridge between the real data and all that user need.
Yes, that's what we strive for, is to create a bridge right between the real world data and the other needs.
Okay, so maybe can you tell us more what is exactly the users need right now, all the data that the user need right now. So maybe can you tell us more detail about it?
Sorry, are you asking who our partners are?
Sorry. So what I'm trying to ask that maybe can you tell us more detail about the bridge between the real data and all that user need. So can you tell us more what is exactly the data that user is need right now?
Oh, I understand. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. I think my internet is not fast enough. Yeah. So there's so much data. So in the beginning, we were focusing on location data. We thought everything is or most data is in a context of location, right? So if we speak about the temperature, right, you speak in the context of location, right, where the temperature is, or say you like a certain restaurant, right? It depends where that restaurant is, and or if you meet someone or e-commerce, supply chains, a lot of data points are location, and so we try to make data unspoofable and unhackable through this network of devices. And then on top of that, we layer other data like POI data, point of interest data, where, for example, our users go into restaurants, right, and they're opening, to verify the opening hours, they take pictures of the restaurant from the side and do different other things, and there might be a location-based survey attached to it, and that data gets validated and verified, and then maybe sold to a Web2 company or gets used in a Web3 context. And if lots of partners on both sides there. And but we also do location-based surveys, for example, and temperature data and many other data points.
So let's talk a little bit more about Web3. So how do you feel about Web3 so far?
Web3 is amazing. Yeah. The problem with Web3 often is that it's not easy to adopt for non-crypto people. What I see a lot is crypto people building things for other crypto people, right? It's like me to a nerd like you, and so the addressable market is very small. And then in the crypto market, right, it's a certain niche. Let's say you only do like DeFi, or you only do GameFi, or you only do something, right? And so the user experience is often not good, and your addressable market is very small. But if you want to really change the world with Web3, we need to make it addressable to everyone and make the user experience just extremely seamless. And it's difficult, I think, for a lot of crypto companies. I think now as markets are crashing, I think a lot of them understand that they can't live in their ecosystems, right? But that Web3 needs to connect to real users. We're not in the space. When we launch, that's one reason we launched the Coin app. Today, we think about 80% of the users that come into the Coin app are not people, but 95% of them redeem XYO inside the Coin app. So that means we brought millions of people newly into the ecosystem through Web3. And I wish more companies in the space would do this, right? To basically then we revolutionize the world and
So, in your opinion, right? So, what do you think is the problem of the Web3 right now that stop people from moving, the movement between Web 2 to Web 3 is it's kind of slow right now. So, do you think, in your opinion, what are the problem of Web 3 at the moment?
I think with all the infrastructure stuff is a problem, right? Like throughput and transactions per second, these types of things, right? And several protocols try to solve this. I think if you look at like Elrond and others, but and then you have layer 2s, right? And layer 3s which try to solve it, but the user experience for non-crypto people is even harder, I think. And bridges, right? You have the bridges which get hacked here and there, right? And that's the problem. So all of that, I think, is a problem, but I'm sure you can solve it. But the biggest problem is that the adoption seems to slow down, and adoption shouldn't slow down. I think it should accelerate, especially in a market like this one. And I think that unless we make things seamless and easy to understand for non-crypto people, right? If they don't have to think about if they deal with a Web 3 application or Web 2 application or Web 70 application, they can just do what they want to do, it's very seamless and easy manner. I think unless we solve that across the ecosystem, we won't reach the adoption we really want for Web3.
So we are talking about Web3. So what are the critical elements in Web3 that XYO implement right now?
Trusted data oracle. I think we're pretty much one of the very, very few ones who doesn't trust us data. And if you want to, for example, you want to connect, you want to make sure that certain data points show up that you trust them, right, when you put them on chain, when you resolve a smart contract, for example. Let's say you have a bet on a smart contract. You want to make absolutely sure that the data points are correct. Today, Oracle, they don't provide trustworthy data often, right? Oracle might have a deal with a website, for example, to provide sports scores or weather data or other data, right? And to bring that on chain. But there you can't necessarily trust, right? Because it's centralized. And we are creating absolutely trustless data. And that's going to be, I think, very important in a world where more and more value is going to be attached to your online behavior because of Web3.
Okay, pretty interesting. So, do you think so? This is just a little bit like about the future, but do you think that in the future, like every country around the world, the data will be decentralized?
I don't think so, because lots of them are afraid, right? If you look at a lot of central banks and lots of governments are banning crypto or regulating it in a way and putting it into old frameworks which are made for old securities laws, for example, like 100-year-old securities laws and these kinds of things. I think, and they are afraid, I think, to lose some of their power and ability to govern. And so I think we will need to find a way that satisfies these governments, right? But also that we can maximize decentralization for the Web3 community. And I think some things will go hand in hand there in the end.
Okay, that's pretty cool to hear your verdict about that. So, last question before we end the podcast. So, can you tell us more about the upcoming plan of XYO Network and also about yourself?
Yeah, so XYO is scaling a lot. We just very recently, a few weeks ago, we tokenized the shares in our company as well, and have now a security token called XYLB, which trades T0 ATS. So we are one of the very few companies in the space which tokenize its shares. We're the fifth or sixth company ever to do that, and we're the largest one. We have more than 23,000 shareholders, and so we are excited about that ecosystem as well, where you tokenize assets in your securities, let's say your vacation rental or your bakery or your shop or whatever business, right? And you bring it on chain, and we can other people participate and invest in your business. And so we hope to grow that system and be some of the trailblazers there. And then of course the XYO side, we hope to bring all the listeners into in our ecosystem and help us grow.
Okay. So what about your plan? What
My plan?
Yeah.
I travel around and preach about XYO and tell people to be part of it, and that's my ambition.
So a little bit about also in the future. So how many years or like the time for the market to recover? So how long does it take for the market to recover, in your opinion?
So many macroeconomic factors, right? There is the inflation, of course, and the cost of interest rates. There is the war in Ukraine, and there are other macroeconomic events happening all around the world which have such an impact on the economy. And I think some of them are quite unpredictable. And so it's difficult to say that. I think we might hit the bottom maybe in the winter or after the winter, so after maybe the new year, but then who knows how long it's going to be until we recover. I don't know. I hope it's going to be maybe 3 months, but I think it could also be 9 or 12 months. But I think don't get distracted, right? It's like, okay, now we're already in such a bad funk for almost a year. It started all in November of last year, and our asset prices are depressed now anyways, right? Now now the people who make money are the ones who make money, right? Because they are buying and buying at that point, and because they're cheap relative to where they were a year ago. And then hopefully you have a big stack of crypto assets or other assets, when the market turn around.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, like the market right now is also not really doing good, but I mean, it's already there, right? So right now we just need to I already depressed, but it's okay, it's fine. We are still working here and trying to make things better in the crypto space. And also, I also see there are a lot of attention of people who haven't been in the crypto space before, and they are interested in learning about blockchain and crypto in general. So I think, even the market gonna slowly recover, but we are here right now, so just focusing on what we do, and that's it. Things will happen. Okay, so that's it for the podcast today, guys, and thank you everyone for listening to the second episode of the podcast, and thank you, Markus, for joining us today and discussing about Singapore and also about Web3 and mostly about XYO Network. Thank you for joining today's podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Thank you. And do you have anything to say to our audience? Feel free to share.
Yeah, follow XYO on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and everything. Once you're there, you're gonna be hooked and you're gonna love what we talk about. And listen to all the upcoming episodes of podcasts because they're gonna be amazing as well.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you, Markus. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye.